all kind of statements and policies which is affecting the world order. It is going to affect the trade, the tariff, the climate change, and he is going on doing it. They have mentioned that a minimum geographical area shall be reserved under forest. No forest shall be cut, and a minimum geographical area. And he organized a special session of parliament in which he invited both ruling party and opposition party leaders. And he invited all aborigines to fill up within the parliament. They were sitting there, people, the TV sets were installed all over, and they were made to sit outside and listen to those apology. It's called the apology, because it is that ego which is giving rise to a lot of materialism, and materialism is consumption of natural resources.
Overwhelmed by the vast UPSC syllabus, it's time to transform that stress into strategy with our all-in-one GS Foundation course. Break down every subject from prelims and mains to CSAT and essay, and demystify current affairs through PT 365 and Mains 365. At Vision IS Delhi, we are more than just educators. We are your mentors on the path to success. Here's how we empower your UPSC journey. Complete syllabus mastery. Get a step-by-step roadmap covering every topic you need to conquer the exam. Simplified current affairs. Stay ahead with sessions that turn complex news into clear, actionable insights. Tailored mentorship. Enjoy personalized one-on-one guidance to sharpen your strengths and overcome your challenges. Continuous progress tracking. Regular tests and detailed feedback ensure you are always moving forward. Your dream of joining the civil services is within reach. With our expert faculty and proven strategies, every lecture, every discussion, and every practice test is designed to build your confidence and competence. Batches starting from 4th March at 2 p.m., 25th Feb at 5 p.m. and 21st Feb at 11 a.m. at Karol Bagh, and 25th Feb at 6 p.m. at GTB Nagar. To know more, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
Online classes offer convenience, but serious aspirants know that UPSC success demands structure, focus, and personal support, found only in physical classrooms. Classroom learning enables real-time interaction, ensuring no question goes unanswered. This immediate feedback fosters a deeper understanding and builds confidence. After-class interactions with faculty turns doubts into discussions and guidance into growth. These personal moments are the stepping stones to your UPSC success. Peer discussions in classrooms foster collaboration, critical thinking, and camaraderie, qualities essential for UPSC success. Classroom tests mirrors the intensity of the UPSC exam with real-time supervision and in-depth evaluations. Every test becomes a learning experience. Mock interviews in classrooms recreate the pressure of UPSC interviews. With constructive feedback, aspirants refine their responses and build confidence for the real test. A structured environment keeps you disciplined and focused. With fixed schedules and personal accountability, classrooms ensure you stay on track. Faculty members regularly interact with their peers, ensuring students get diverse perspectives on complex subjects. This enriches the learning process and keeps the curriculum dynamic and relevant. Classrooms don't just teach, they inspire. Step into the world with confidence and turn dreams into milestones.
Now we'll talk about climate justice, meaning and key principles. We will also talk about stakeholders in climate justice and also ethical issues with climate change, ethical responsibilities of governments, India's approach to climate justice, challenges in achieving climate justice, way forward. What has happened in the case of the new administration in the United States? What has it done to climate change? So every day the Trump is coming out with all kind of statements and policies which is affecting the world order. It is going to affect the trade, the tariff, the climate change, and he's going on doing it. Be that as it may, but IPCC report, if you read 2014 report, you see IPCC is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now this comprises of almost 500 to 700 scientists are there, drawn from all countries of the world. They are the best scientists. They carry out experiments to find out whether the ice cap is melting, whether the weather is changing, biodiversity is getting affected, oceans are becoming more acidic, ocean levels are rising. All the visible effects of climate change they have studied. And you know one conclusion which they reached, one conclusion, that climate change, and if you read 2014 report, climate change is happening, is real, and human beings are the cause. उससे पहले तक हम लोग को ये लगता था कि क्लाइमेट चेंज तो कोई डिवाइन चीज़ है, वो हो रही है उसके कारण क्लाइमेट चेंज भगवान की हम लोग जैसे एलर्जी के लिए ना, यू नो पीपल डॉक्टर्स समटाइम्स, यहाँ कोई डॉक्टर तो नहीं है, डॉक्टर्स के एलर्जी कह देंगे, देखो एलर्जी हुई होगी, यू नो एलर्जी के लिए पॉपुलर वर्ड क्या है, अल्लाह की मर्जी. जब किसी को कुछ समझ नहीं आता कि अल्लाह की मर्जी है. सी सो दिस इज हाउ वी एट्रीब्यूटेड क्लाइमेट चेंज कि यार ये तो कोई डिवाइन चीज़ है, भगवान रुष्ट हो गए हैं, नाराज हो गए हैं, इसलिए हो रहा है. बट देन दो साइंटिस्ट दे कंक्लूडेड दैट क्लाइमेट चेंज इज रियल and human beings are the cause. We have done it, and more so in the case by the which countries? Western countries, because those developed nations, they started industrial revolution. Industrial revolution was the beginning of pollution and other things which brought about a change in the climate. So the climate change is again one thing which does not require passports to travel from one country to another. Kofi Annan, problems without passports require solutions without passports. You require everyone, the country must sit together, which Trump is not doing. Trump is very conveniently withdrawing aid to WHO, withdrawing aid to this Paris Agreement. So, what is the challenges and the way forward? So, understanding climate justice. What is climate justice? Climate justice refers to placing equity. Again, here the word is equity, justice. Human rights at the heart of climate change decision making. That human rights are the most important thing, central point to the decision making. Whenever we talk about climate, it is the human beings. We have to care for them. What harm we people have done? Remember the most important constituent of greenhouse gases, what is that? Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, the levels of carbon dioxide are increasing day by day. The permissible limit of carbon dioxide in the human atmosphere is about 350 parts per million. 350 parts per million. We have already crossed about 450, which shows that we are going to be deprived of oxygen in some time. And I remember a beautiful story, joke, lighter vein, that about 200 years from today, in a family, there will be a doorbell. घर में घंटी बजेगी, तो mother will say to the daughter, go, open the door, our weekly quota of oxygen must have arrived. That is going to happen. We will require oxygen cylinders to breathe. The oxygen which is given to us free of cost by nature. Do you know what is the amount of oxygen which is given free by nature to us? Nature is the biggest ethical entity in this world. It gives us food grains, it gives us water, it gives us fruits, vegetable, oxygen. The oxygen is given free of cost, without expectation in return. Ethics is giving to others without expectation in return. If you as a public servant, civil servant, if a civil servant does someone's work and expects some money in return, it is not ethics, it is unethical. You must do the work of others without expectation in return. So nature is that ethical entity. It gives us oxygen. and it doesn't ask anything in return. So scientists have calculated that with every breath of air, oxygen comes inside. Now, if you multiply that oxygen with the cost of oxygen, how much oxygen in rupee terms does nature give to each one of us if we survive on this earth up to the age of 65 years? 65 साल की उम्र तक अगर हम जिंदा रहते हैं तो कितनी ऑक्सीजन रुपीस टर्म्स में नेचर हम प्रत्येक व्यक्ति को देता है? डू यू हैव एन आइडिया? इट इज 5.5 crores of rupees. 5.5 करोड़ रुपए की ऑक्सीजन नेचर प्रत्येक व्यक्ति को देता है जो 65 साल की उम्र तक जिंदा रहता है इस पृथ्वी पर. And that is given free of cost. But human beings with huge amount of development, industrial development, we are gradually taking away the oxygen. One of the best TED talks which I have seen, which I would really suggest to you, you must go through that TED talk. It is a TED talk given by the Prime Minister of Bhutan. What is a TED talk, by the way? Tell me. Have you listened to the TED talks? What is the full form of TED? No. TED, T-E-D. Technology, Entertainment, Design. So the initial TED talks, they were centered around three broad topics: technology, entertainment, and design. Now TEDx has come, so which carries all the subjects are there. So the best TED talk on climate change and environment was given by Prime Minister of Bhutan. If you just, it's about an hour long TED talk. Just on YouTube, if you open up, you will be amazed what Bhutan has done for fighting the climate change. You know something? Bhutan, in its constitution, they have mentioned that a minimum geographical area shall be reserved under forest. No forest shall be cut. And a minimum geographical area, and you know how much geographical area? 60%. They say that 60% of our geographical area must be under forest. And actually they have exceeded that. They have made it almost 65 to 70%. That is the level of commitment they have got towards the climate. And he was saying beautifully, ironically, that we are a very small country and we are surrounded by two major countries which pollute the atmosphere greatly by contributing towards carbon dioxide. One is China, the other is India. And we act as a carbon sink. We absorb the carbon dioxide emitted by India and China because we have got adequate forest wealth in our country. So when you find time, go through that. Okay, so climate change, it is an extension of environmental justice. So climate justice is something related to environmental justice that focuses on fairness and how the benefits and burdens of climate change are distributed. You know, one of the countries, which is that country which will be submerged under the sea? The first country to be submerged under the sea because of rising sea levels. Tuvalu, correct. Tuvalu. So Tuvalu is that country which will be submerged under the sea. This comprises of islands, and already half the population of those islands has been shifted out because it is slowly going under the sea. And they have blamed the developed nations for this. They said, you people are responsible for this. We have not done anything. But you people started having industrial revolution, and we are paying the price for that. So the key principle of climate change include equity, recognizing historical responsibility for emissions and different capacities to deal with climate impacts. So we are responsible. I was telling you that human beings are the cause. We must take the historical responsibility for the emissions. And wealthier nations, developed nations and industries bear greater responsibility. Yahi to Prime Minister of India had said that you people have done it and now you tell us that you don't do it. How can be that's possible? We also have to carry out development. There is always a debate between environment and development. One of the biggest environmentalists in this world who was awarded Nobel Prize, who was a lady. Can you name that lady? Maathai. Wangari Maathai. So Wangari Maathai was from Africa. And she said, development is necessary, but not at the cost of environment. She was awarded Nobel Prize. And there was another lady who was awarded Nobel Prize for protecting the rights of women. Come on. Who introduced the right of education in her country for women? Malala. And there was another person who worked for the children's rights in this country who was awarded along with her. Kailash Satyarthi. What was the name of the institution which Kailash Satyarthi was running? Bachpan Bachao. Bachpan Bachao. Okay. So, distributive justice. One is equity, distributive, addressing disparities in emissions and climate impact. The richest 10% of the richest people, they contribute 45% of global emissions. With the poorest, 50% contribute only 13%. So देखिए क्या difference है. The 10% who are the richest countries, they contribute 35%, 45% of the pollution emissions. Poorest 50 countries contribute only 13. However, climate disaster death rates were 15 times higher in higher vulnerable regions between 2010 and 2020 because climate change is not restricted. It doesn't require passports to travel. If it happens in one country, it will happen in other countries. And since we do not have that kind of a health regime protection as the developed nation, so the maximum deaths took place in our country. That is why we say that you people are to be blamed for this. And we must create some kind of a fund to take care of the climate change which is happening. After all, there are brethren, human beings everywhere. And that is why the Prime Minister of India talked about vaccine. Maitri, it gave vaccines to those countries who were developing countries, who did not have recourse to the COVID-19 vaccine. Even though we also required it greatly, but he went forward. And that is called as an idealist approach. Some countries believe, like America now, believes in realist approach to international ethics. I mean, you can see they are talking all things which are contrary to the idealistic, ethical way of understanding international relations. But he doesn't understand. So, procedural justice. So, inclusive decision making involving marginalized communities like women, indigenous groups. What are indigenous groups? What? Ethnic groups? The original aborigines of that. Have you heard about a beautiful story about aborigines? One country, the successive governments of that country carried out lot of atrocities against the aborigines. Aborigines, like for example in USA there were Red Indians who were aborigines. So there was another country where the whites, they carried out all atrocities against the aborigines by making all coercive laws. Their children, adult children, were snatched away from their families and they were asked to perform menial tasks. And this generation of young people was called as stolen generation. Stolen generation. So then some like-minded people, they said enough is enough. Civil society, they got together and they said, we must approach the government that you have committed atrocities against the aborigines. We must apologize to these people for the great injustice which has been done by you people. So they carried out a signature campaign and went to the Prime Minister and they said, we must apologize. You are our representative. You should stand up and ask for apology from these people. The Prime Minister was terrified. He developed cold feet. Elections were round the corner and he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to annoy the other people. But then election took place and a new Prime Minister came. And this time this like-minded people, civil society people went to meet him and they said, would you be prepared to apologize to these people? He understood. He said, yes, I will do that. And he organized a special session of parliament in which he invited both ruling party and opposition party leaders. And he invited all aborigines to fill up within the parliament. They were sitting there. People, the TV sets were installed all over and they were made to sit outside and listen to those apology. It's called the apology, where he got up, the Prime Minister, and he said, I'm sorry, I apologize for what we have done to you. Can you name that country? It was in 2008 which happened. Which was that country and who was the Prime Minister? You can never even imagine, this thing happening in any other country. The country was Australia. And the name of the Prime Minister was Kevin Rudd. If you look up YouTube, you will find that the Aborigines who were wronged, and here was a Prime Minister who got up and he said, I'm sorry. So this is ultimately, the climate change has done a lot of injustice to the marginalized communities, and intergenerational justice, that is, the depletion of the natural resources is taking part so fast that tomorrow's generations, great-grandchildren of ours, will look back at us and will say, you people are responsible. You have depleted the oxygen, the other natural water so fast that nothing is left for us now. You people are responsible. So therefore, intergenerational justice is also, which is happening because of the climate change.
The UPSC Personality Test, your final challenge before becoming a civil servant. Are you prepared to face the panel with confidence? At Vision IAS, we ensure you step into your interview fully prepared with our personality development program. Decode Def with expert insights. Mock interviews with ex-bureaucrats. Current affairs sessions for a competitive edge. Elocution training to enhance communication. Learn from UPSC toppers and serving officers. Their real-world experiences will shape your strategy for success. Personalized mentorship and performance feedback ensure you fine-tune every aspect of your preparation. This is your moment to shine. Prepare, practice and perform. Admissions open for UPSC Mains 2024 qualified students.
Does your current affairs preparation feel unorganized and scattered? Vision IAS digital current affairs platform brings everything you need under one roof. Whether you are starting with the basics or looking to refine your preparation, Vision IAS digital current affairs premium features include Vision Intelligence. Get AI-driven responses to your current affairs questions, instant, syllabus-aligned and precise. Daily answer writing. Enhance your mains preparation with structured answer writing and expert feedback. Quick notes and highlights. Streamline your note-taking and create personalized revision materials for easy reference. And free features include daily news summaries. Stay updated with curated insights from trusted sources like The Hindu and Indian Express, saving you valuable time. Downloadable PDFs. Organize study materials efficiently for seamless revision. Daily quizzes. Sharpen your knowledge with MCQs that track your progress and reinforce learning. Student dashboard. Keep your preparation on track with a performance monitoring system. Visit our website to explore the features and get started today.
Lacking behind in general studies for prelims and feeling overwhelmed? Join the Fast Track Course 2025 and stay on track to conquer UPSC Prelims 2025 with innovative curriculum, revision and mentorship. Tailored to help aspirants actualize their potential into competencies, the program offers a comprehensive approach covering every aspect of students' preparation including GS Prelims syllabus, regular practice, performance assessment and feedback. With only a few months left for Prelims 2025, optimize your time efficiently with focus on core topics. Available in online mode, take advantage of the flexible learning schedule and prepare as per your needs with the dedicated student portal. Admission to the course is now open. Enroll today and benefit from its enriching features.
Stakeholder in climate. Who are the stakeholders? Governments, of course. Number one is governments. Responsible for protecting the environment. And there are many agreements like Paris Agreement, international organization, United Nations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, facilitate climate finance, disaster relief and regulatory support. So they must finance climate disaster, climate finance, disaster, relief and regulatory support. So we must, who are the stakeholders? Who can do that? These are the stakeholders. So one is the governments, the second is international because they have the money. United Nations, World Bank and IMF, of course with Trump's coming, I think they will also face a lot of problems. Business and corporations. So business and corporations. So business and corporations, how do you get rid of this? This one? This? Actually what has happened is that pen is there, no working. So, okay, first of all then I think we first, yeah, gone. Okay, so then businesses and corporations, so must manage climate risks, adopt sustainable practices. So businesses must adopt sustainable practices. Do you know even a shirt or a cloth or a sari or anything cloth which is made, it requires water. Hundreds of liters is required for one shirt. And now the concept has come amongst people to adopt a minimalist approach. What is a minimalism? Consume minimum. So minimum number of materialism. And that is why it is, and you know how this materialism comes to our mind? Because of a 3-letter word in English, ego. So ego, if we can do with 2 pants and 2 shirts, we would like to fill up our entire wardrobe. And then we will purchase something very, very costly, which requires lot of water consumption, and we will wear it and we will put it on the Facebook. I have purchased this. Now that is nothing but ego, isn't it? That is why it is said, sometimes a beautiful phrase which has been coined, that we must move from egology to ecology. Because it is that ego which is giving rise to lot of materialism. And materialism is consumption of natural resources. Again a global problem. So businesses and corporations must manage climate risks and adopt sustainable practices and invest in green technologies while ensuring responsible environmental impact. So instead of thermal power, we must move to hydrogen power, we must move to hydropower, we must use to solar power and so on, so that the effects of climate change because of pollution, and pollution is caused because of the practices which we follow. Local communities and indigenous people must be ensured access to clean air. This is a kind of a right which they have. Every one of us is entitled to clean air, environment, and that is why the 3 Ps became so important. If you set up an industry, Bhopal gas tragedy happened because of that. So whenever you set up an industry, you must carry out the environmental clearances, environment impact analysis. Similarly, what is called as social cost benefit analysis. So instead of only financial cost benefit analysis, we must go in for social cost benefit analysis, which is a concept which puts emphasis on the other 2 Ps, which is the people and the planet. And scientific community plays a very important role in research. They carry out the research, they bring out material, such material which causes less pollution, green energy, and so on. The Prime Minister also brought about a concept of life. What is life? Yeah. Why doesn't it move? Ethical issues with climate change. One is disproportionate impact. Developing countries and marginalized communities bear a greater burden, isn't it? Tuvalu had to be shifted. They were underdeveloped, marginalized. They had not done anything wrong, but they had to be shifted. So, disproportionate impact. Developing countries and marginalized community bear a greater burden, even though they have not contributed to the emissions, because climate change does not require passports to travel. So anything happening in United States will ultimately have an impact there also, even though they have not contributed at all. Climate migration and displacement. So rising temperatures force people to relocate, worsening inequalities. So people have to be relocated. Historical responsibility. The migration is taking place on a very big scale. Sometimes because of wars and conflicts, and sometimes because of consideration of rise in temperature. So the rise in temperature gives rise to migration. If it becomes too hot, they have to migrate to other places. And then historical responsibility. High emission countries have contributed most. So the who suffers? Vulnerable nations. And loss and damage compensation. This is what India has been stressing, that climate vulnerable nations demand financial aid from still it has not been given. There was a pool to be created by the developed nations to help those developing nations, because they have not contributed to the high emission. Developed countries have contributed. And access to clean energy. So renewable energy solutions must be affordable and accessible. You see, what is happening is that the developed countries, they are very good in innovation and creativity. We are not. But they bring about latest technology. But they pass on the substandard technology to us. They don't give that technology to us. And therefore, it's a double jeopardy for us. So we suffer even more because they don't part with the latest technologies. So renewable energy solution must be affordable and accessible to all. They don't make it accessible to us. So ethical responsibilities of government. Justice-based climate policy should be there. So climate policy should integrate fair burden sharing, mitigation and adaptation. So the climate change policy should be such which should integrate fair burden sharing. It should be fair burden sharing. Why should the developing countries share the entire burden? So some kind of finances must be given, and mitigation and adaptation of the new technologies. For example, phasing out coal must include just transition plans for workers in affected industries. So there must be a justified transition plan for workers in the affected industries. And duty to future generations. Government act as trustees of the environment, so we must take care of the future generations, isn't it? What is that girl doing? 13-year-old girl? Greta Thunberg. She sat in dharna outside her class. She bunked her class. And she invited all people who were concerned with climate change. And it became a world movement. So this is how people bring change. People bring change. And I think recently what happened that there was a wall in Chandigarh which was being demolished by the administration to expand the road, widen the road. And that wall was a wall of Nek Chand's rock garden. So Nek Chand's rock garden you must have heard. You have not heard? Nek Chand, he was a junior engineer in engineering department of Chandigarh. And he used all used products like sinks, like taps, like porcelain things to create a rock garden, which is world famous now. So the wall was getting demolished for making way for the widening of the road. And people lined up and they said, nothing doing. We will not allow you to break the wall. So this is how social movements, Chipko movement was one such movement. So therefore people, when they feel very conscious about it, then they do come forward to bring about a change. Okay? So duty to future generation, government, Stockholm Declaration and constitutional mandate. The governments must act as a trustees, protecting the most vulnerable. So the disaster preparedness and resilient infrastructure for low income and at risk population. So the most vulnerable, they suffer the most, poorest suffer the most. Haves people, they have got a lot of money. That is why corruption also doesn't affect the have-nots. Haves. It affects the have-nots. जो गरीब आदमी है उसको मुश्किल से दवाई खरीदने के पैसे नहीं, अगर उसको जो है दवाई प्रीमियम पर मिलेगी तो वो कैसे रहेगा? So therefore the have-nots are the most vulnerable. Corruption affects the most vulnerable section of the society. And similarly the climate change also affects the most vulnerable sections. So therefore they need to be protected. That is inclusivity. And global solidarity and cooperation. Developed nations must lead emission reduction and provide financial support. So rich nations must uphold their commitment to ethical climate finances. And then accountability and transparency. Ethical governance requires scientific, evidence-based policy making, IPCC reports. So evidence-based means ki experiments, evidence-based, facts-based, not based on superstitions. Because as I said, IPCC report said climate change is for real and human beings are the cause. Because they found out from experiments that it is the human actions which have led to this climate change. So we must, the governance requires scientific evidence-based and ensuring public participation. Every one of us should take part in the climate change mitigation measures. So there are a number of acts, I'm sure some of you are already aware about it. In any case, I will part this PPT with you. But one is the Environment Protection Act, which is there. The National Action Plan on Climate Change has been brought about by the Government of India. You can read at leisure. For example, National Solar Mission, National Mission for Sustaining Himalaya Ecosystem demonstrate the government's intent and responsibility to bring in the change. and then state action plans to climate change. So these are crucial for localized adaptation state-wise. So central government has to take action, and so the state government also. And then Forest Rights Act is there, which is a vital piece of legislation that ensures the rights of the tribal population. So that takes care of the tribal population also. And then these are, you are already aware, Paris Agreement, net zero emissions by 2070. We have pledged that by we will become net zero carbon emissions. Which country is called as a carbon negative country? Bhutan. Carbon negative. I was telling you, it acts as a sink. It absorbs carbon from other countries rather than emitting. But India, we are pledged that by 2070, we should become carbon zero, neutral. And then COP summits are there, G20 summits are there, life movement, the Prime Minister has said, all of you are aware about lifestyle for environment. And then balancing development and sustainability. So we must balance the two things. Mathai also said this, that environment and development must be balanced. Development should not be at the cost of environment. So sustainability requires that development and environment both should go hand in hand, but it should be sustainable. So India's approach to climate change is the constitutional framework. These you can easily read. Article 48A, Article 51AG, Article 21, right to life, right to protect environment, National Action Plan on Climate Change. So there are 8 missions, solar energy missions, sustainable habitat, these are all there, and Green India. And National Solar Mission set a target of 100 gigawatt solar capacity by 2022. That was 2022, but it has been slightly delayed. What is that program which the Prime Minister launched about one sun, one grid, one earth? So he said, since sun is always there in some part of the earth, so we can use solar energy and connect all the nations by one grid. After all, it is one earth only. So India's global role in climate change. And then there are some challenges. So development versus environment is a challenge. Resource and financial constraints, because you require huge amount of money to change over from, say, thermal power plants to green energy. You require huge amount. Dependence on thermal power and the fossil fuels still continues. We have been able to make some dent, but not much. So that again is an important area. And economic interests and lobbying. Fossil fuel often lobby for more use of fossil fuel. That is a constraint. And international equity tensions. So the developing nations demand historical emissions. Emitters must take responsibility. They say कि आप लोग की responsibility है, आप लोगों ने industrial revolution लाए, you are responsible for it. And governance and implementation gaps. So the climate finance, we have already talked about that the developed countries must contribute towards the climate finance. It's a huge amount, and all the developed countries, because it is a one earth. Regulation challenges, weak enforcement. Environmental law, it is very weak. We are not in a position to implement it very well. The implementation is very weak. There are violations in industrial and mining sectors. Social inequalities. So climate change affects haves differently and have-nots differently. Poorest section of the society is very adversely affected. And displacement due to extreme weather that takes place. Political will is also lacking, because ultimately the politician comes through the process of election. He is there for 5 years, And so he has a limited vision, unlike some countries where they Bhutan. But otherwise people think yaar 5 saal baad dobara we have to be elected, so development is very important. So therefore political will must be there for any such thing. 3 problems which face this country are pollution, population and corruption. ये 3 problem अगर हो जाए तो we will be really an ideal country. Pollution, population and corruption. Lack of interdepartmental cooperation, coordination between forest department, environment department, health department. Everyone works in a silo. So impact on marginalized groups is much more. And there are climate refugees who move from one country to another. This is the displaced population. So we need a just transition. We need create green jobs in renewable energy. So green jobs are basically those industries which are green rather than those which create pollution, isn't it? So it requires a focus on inclusive growth. The economic burden of climate change affects the poor, and the poor then goes through the cycle of poverty. It becomes more poor. The difference between the haves and have-nots is increasing day by day, rather than bridging the gap. So there are ethical dilemmas in climate policy. One is development versus. So that is a dilemma, whether we should carry out development or sustainable environment. Particularly where in India we require rapid urbanization. Use of fossil fuels, still energy needs require fossil fuels. And urban expansion and green spaces. Population is increasing, so urban development also has to take place. So these are some of the things which I wanted to talk to you on climate change. I shall bring it to an end. If there are any questions. So today we discussed about the gender parity, gender justice, gender equity, and climate change and climate equity. Yes, absolutely. That is a best practice which other states should also follow. That's a very good scheme. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. It was wonderful interacting with you. We'll meet again on some other important topic. Till then, have a nice evening.